The first seconds of this video aren't just an opening. It's a moment millions have been waiting for years. Imagine two figures who have always been the center of speculation, finally standing side by side, looking into the camera and speaking. No more silence. No more riddles. Just the truth slowly being revealed. And when those first words came out, the entire fandom seemed to stop breathing. The names Wang Yibo and Xiao Zhan are no strangers in the entertainment industry. They aren't just actors, but global phenomena. But behind their immense popularity lies a long history of rumors, public pressure, and a heavy silence. For years, their relationship has been the subject of endless speculation. From small interactions to fleeting expressions in front of the camera, everything has been analyzed, debated, and even twisted. Fans were divided, theories arose, and each appearance always left more questions than answers. But this time was different. There was no rigid script, no visible boundaries. When they finally sat together on the same stage, the atmosphere felt honest. It was as if all the burdens they'd been holding in were ready to be released. When Wang Yibo began to speak, his voice was calm yet meaningful. He didn't deny the past, nor did he shy away from the questions that had been haunting him. There was exhaustion in his tone, but also relief, like someone who could finally say, "This is what really happened." Xiao Zhan, on the other hand, showed a side rarely seen in public. His expression was more open, more emotional. He not only answered, but also reflected on the long journey they had been on. Every sentence felt sincere, unfiltered, and unpretentious. What made this moment so powerful wasn't just their words, but also their unconcealable chemistry. The way they looked at each other, the small pauses before answering, even the faint smiles that appeared at unexpected times, it all felt real. Fans watching the broadcast reacted immediately. Social media exploded within minutes. Hashtags related to them topped trending topics in various countries. Many admitted to crying, not out of sadness, but because they finally had clarity. Until now, their silence had often been seen as avoidance. But in this confession, it was revealed that silence was not an easy choice. There's industry pressure, there are professional boundaries, and there are things that simply can't be said. Wang Yibo admitted that he chose to focus on his work, even though he was aware that the public wanted more. He didn't want his every move to be misinterpreted. For him, maintaining distance was a way to protect everyone. Meanwhile, Xiao Zhan spoke about the impact of rumors on his life. He didn't deny that there were difficult times, where public pressure felt overwhelming. But he also emphasized that the experience made him stronger. Interestingly, the two never directly denied or confirmed any of the rumors. Instead, they chose to focus on the realities, their friendship, their professionalism, and their individual journeys. The most surprising moment came when they responded directly to each other. There was no awkwardness. There was no distance. Just two people who had shared a significant journey, now speaking with respect. Many fans, initially skeptical, began to see the situation from a different perspective. That not everything had to be explained in detail. That sometimes, honesty doesn't always mean revealing everything, but rather providing understanding. Public reactions were varied. Some were satisfied, some were still curious, and still others finally chose to come to terms with reality. But one thing was certain. This moment had changed the way many viewed them. Entertainment media called this one of the most historic moments in Asian entertainment. Not because of the controversy, but because of the courage to finally speak out after so long. What made it even more powerful was the fact that there was no overdone drama. There were no forced sensations. Everything felt fluid, like a long overdue conversation. For some, it was the end of a long chapter. But for others, it was the beginning of a new understanding about how public figures live under the spotlight and how they manage to maintain their humanity. Now, with all that has been revealed, the biggest question is no longer what really happened, but what will happen next? Will this change their dynamic going forward? Or will it reinforce existing boundaries? What is clear is that this single moment has left a deep mark, not just for fans, but for the industry itself. A reminder that behind every rumor, there are real people with feelings that aren't always visible. And perhaps In the end, that's the most surprising truth, that behind all the speculation, all that remains is two individuals trying to live their lives as honestly as possible, amidst a world that never stops judging. As time passes since that moment, its impact hasn't immediately subsided. On the contrary, snippets of their interview continue to be replayed, reanalyzed, and discussed with ever-increasing depth. Every pause, every word choice, even the tone of their voices becomes a source of endless reflection. Many fans began to realize that they might have been too focused on what they wanted to see, rather than what was actually shown. The reality conveyed in the conversation felt more complex, more human, and far from the dramatic narrative that had been circulating. In various online forums, discussions shifted direction. Where previously they were filled with theories and assumptions, they now focus more on the pressures of the entertainment industry, public expectations, and how two prominent figures must carefully navigate it all. Perspectives began to shift from mere curiosity to empathy. Some fans even admitted to feeling guilty for having gone too far in speculating. They began to realize that behind the scenes, there were boundaries that should not be crossed. There was a personal space that should be respected, despite the overwhelming curiosity. But of course, not all reactions changed instantly. Some still questioned, others tried to read the hidden meaning behind their statements. And perhaps that sentiment will never truly disappear. Because when something becomes a major phenomenon, it always leaves a trail of interpretation. What was interesting was how Wang Yibo and Xiao Zhan themselves seemed calmer after that moment. In their next few appearances, their aura seemed different, lighter, more relaxed, as if the burden they had been carrying had finally been lifted. There were no more awkward silences, no more questionable distances. Everything was as it should have been, without the pressure to live up to anyone's expectations but their own. And that's precisely where the most significant change lay. The entertainment industry, too, seemed to be learning from this incident. That transparency, while imperfect, can be a way to defuse lingering speculation. That sometimes, a single moment of honesty can be more powerful than years of silence. Ultimately, this story isn't just about two big names, but about how the public and public figures influence each other. It's a complex, emotionally charged dynamic that doesn't always have simple answers. But at least this time, everyone got something tangible, a moment built not on assumptions, but on the courage to speak up. And that's precisely why the moment felt so rare. In an entertainment world often filled with perfectly curated images, this kind of honesty was almost unheard of. Not because they revealed everything, but because they chose to no longer hide behind silences full of interpretation. Over time, the narrative about them slowly shifted. It was no longer about what their relationship really was, but about their journey, growth, and the choices they made as individuals. The public began to see them not as symbols of speculation, but as human beings with their own boundaries and decisions. What was most noticeable was how the moment created a new space, a space where fans could remain supportive without demanding answers to everything. A balance that had previously been difficult to achieve was now beginning to form naturally. And perhaps that's the true power of all this. Not in the big reveal or the dramatic answer, but in the shift in perspective. That sometimes understanding is more important than knowing everything.